Okay, so welcome to part 2 of the video of the Festool Works bench dog system. These are the top dogs, the short dogs, and the hot dogs. We'll cover other uses for the Festool guide rail. I'll talk about another and demonstrate how to use another manufacturer's rail with drilling 32mm system holes. This system works with more than just Festool rails. If your rail, if you have a different make, if you can fit the head of a 1/4-20 hex head bolt in your T-slot, I'm pretty convinced that this system will work. Okay, so the first operation I want to demonstrate in part 2 is using the Festool Works bench dog system to mill dados. And as before, I just squared the guide rail up using the bench dogs. And I'd like to point out several things. I'm going to demonstrate using the Festool OF1400 router with the, I'm not sure what Festool calls these. I think they're stop guides or something, and they fit on the rail. So you can square this up, position your workpiece, and you can use the guide rail with the router and use that to mill dados. What let me do here is set up, and the Festool routers are marked with the center line. So what I need to do is position the router over the mark and then move my workpiece, and that's looks like it's centered. So my next step is to clamp, and I'm going to put the clamp down here. I'll set this thing up, set my depth. And let's say I want to route a 5mm deep dado. And one thing I want to do is make sure that I'm not hitting my rail with the router bit, and make sure I'm not going to mill off the top of these dogs. No, the other day. Okay, that gave me a much cleaner cut at the exit. So, okay, now I've demonstrated how I use the Festool Works bench dogs and hot dogs with the Festool guide rail to mill dados, make square cuts. Now what I'm going to talk about is how I intend on using it for the 32mm system. And on this I'll be drilling some system holes. And let's say I've got a cabinet side, which I've got a piece of double-sided melamine here. It's particle board core. And let's say I want to make a cabinet, and I'm going to drill holes to mount drawer slides. And essentially, whether you're using the Festool LR32 system, or I'm going to actually be demonstrating the Mafell DuoDoweller, the process of setup is the same. The Mafell system uses you'll notice some notches in this rail, and at the center of every notch is a line. And what that is, those are where the holes will actually be drilled. So I'm going to use these as alignment marks. And it's been a while, and I no longer have my LR32 system for use with the Festool router. And maybe some people that currently have that can correct me if my memory has faded too far. But as I recall, the indexing pin for these holes is actually where the center of the hole will be drilled. So I encourage you, if I'm incorrect on that, post that. But in essence, what that enables you to use is to use the center of the hole, which you can just eyeball it, or the reference line on the Mafell if you're using the Mafell system. So I'm going to put the Festool rail aside for a moment. And in essence, we're going to use the same alignment process that we used for the Festool rails. This particular, the short rail with the Mafell unit comes with its own clamping element, which you'll need to remove to use the hot dogs. And so I'll do that. And this has a T-rail that the hot dogs from Fine Tool Works will fit in. Okay, so the first step, and the reason I put these dogs up first is, and I'm going to loosely put in the bench dogs, but what we'll have to do is we'll have to set this rail up for two positions. So we're looking for more than just square now. Whether I'm dealing with the index holes on the LR32 rail from Festool or these index lines from the Mafell system, I need to achieve the appropriate setback for my drawer hardware. And that setback for the 32 millimeter system is 37 millimeters from the front edge. And I don't have any edge banding on this, so normally I would be doing this after I edge banded. So I've got this Inker tools here, and I'm just going to make a mark. So what I want is my first set of holes drilled on center, 37 millimeters set back from the front edge. And that's a setback for a normal overlay drawer or door. And I also need to use whatever system that I'll be using to determine where my first set of holes is. Normally that'll be decided by the drawer width that you'll be using. And just for this, since I've got a relatively short piece of scrap here, I'm just going to say that this, let's say I'm just going to set it back 50 millimeters from the top. And I'm going to make these lines big enough because I need to align this system. So the first thing to do, that I'm going to do, is I've got my device is loosely installed here. Now, if I were to square this rail up first, there's no guarantee my index point for the appropriate setback is correct. So the first thing I'm going to do is loosely align either the center of the index hole in the LR32 guide rail from Festool or this reference line on the Mafell rail. And I'm going to tighten the hot dog to the rail. What I've just done there with this workpiece set up against the dogs, these, in this case I'm using the top dogs, I have just established the appropriate setback for the first set of system holes. The other holes will be determined by whatever the hole spacing is of the hardware and the length of your slides. So now I've done that, I've only tightened this particular hot dog on the front, the one in the rear is loose. So now I'm going to slide my workpiece away, and the next thing I need to do is square up either the Festool LR32 rail or the Mafell rail. And this is the same process as what was used earlier for the square cuts. And remember, we got very, very accurate cuts. So same process, square it up. So now that my setback, my square is established, the next step is to take whatever your system is, and in this case I'm using the Mafell DuoDoweller, and this indexes, and what I need to do is just get to the point where I can index here, and I'm going to slide my workpiece, and in this case I'm shooting for a little reference mark here, and that is the center of the hole from the Duo-Doweller, and I am good to go. So this hole, since I set this back, I set my reference point back, now my workpiece is set up such that with this rail in this position, my first set of holes will be positioned appropriately. And what I need to do now is set up, I'm going to set up a bench dog, and I'm going to put a clamping knob underneath it. This melamine is so slick that this piece, it's almost guaranteed to move around on you. Okay, so I'm going to take this clamping element, make sure that we could see what I was doing. I think one clamp will be enough. Okay, so I've established my first set of holes, and I realized that this would be a real skinny drawer. Let's say my next one, I want to have, if I move this rail over one more notch, that would give me another 96 millimeters between this set of holes and this one. But I don't want another narrow drawer that's 2 inches tall, or even 3 3/4 inches tall. Let's say I want to go to 192 millimeters. So I'm going to put this rail down here. And I'm going to do the same operation. Okay, and I could continue on down the row, whatever the length of my panel is, drilling holes for my hardware. If I was drilling shelf pins, I would use my longer rail or the Festool rail, and I would set the system up this way and just drill the shelf pins across. Loosen that up, so maybe I'll have enough room here. And then I'd do the same offset such that I would get the shelf pin holes centered where I need them. So that's the way this system with the Fine Tool works, hot dogs, top dogs, short dogs, work with drilling 32 millimeter system holes. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed part 2 of the demonstration, which is the demonstration of the Fine Tool Works bench dog system, and I'm pretty pleased with the results. I'm square, I'm accurate, what more can you ask? But anyway, thank you for watching, and I appreciate any comments you might have, suggestions, or even questions. And again, I'd also like to thank Claremont's Ultimate Tool Supply in Burnaby, British Columbia, for providing the Fine Tool Works bench dogs for this review. So thanks for watching.